that area, So
Cool.
hour and a half drive from Knoxville. So
No, yeah, everything's at least a half-hour drive, no matter everything's very spread out here.
It was a pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Nice meeting you.
Yep, you too.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
All right. I think hopefully I reached him with the possibility of Death Obsessed 2. And now we're going to go right into the next one. And this one I have been trying to curry favor with for several months. And he finally sees my messages, my obsessive, basic instinct type messages.
He finally checked Goodreads, basically. The messages on Goodreads. Yeah.
But it is an honor to talk to you as well. And Gregor, do you recognize this gentleman? His name?
Well, I know who it is. Yeah, I don't recognize his face. I don't. I read his book, or at least one of his books.
Did you finish it?
Yeah.
Okay. Were you won over by the end of it? Because
we talked about it. We talked about it on this program.
Bit. So I'm referring, of course, to Monstrum Führer.
Yeah.
Or is it Der Monstrum Führer?
No, just Monstrum Führer.
Yeah, just Monstrum.
Well, hang on. Let me pull it up here for anybody who might not be familiar. But basically, you took, and you do this a lot, I'm finding, Edward, is that you take two different historical figures or historical happenings and you smash them together for really eccentric effects.
Yeah,
obviously that's intentional, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's not like I'm walking around the corner with the peanut butter and the other guy's got the chocolate and we ran into each other. Nothing. No, it's all me. Yeah.
Yeah, you got what's his name?
Mangala?
Yeah, you got Mangala on my Frankenstein. You got Frankenstein on my Mangala.
Frankenstein, exactly.
Would have been funnier if I'd have remembered. But I really like how you played that, and to me, it was totally plausible. How that research, would rear its head again later, and how it came to be in the possession, of who it was in the possession of, and I'm left wondering, near the end of the novel, just how serious is the individual on the cover's threat that he will always be there. When he's looking over his shoulder, one day he'll be there. I just wonder how serious he is with that threat without spoiling it. And who
he definitely has the patience. Like he's done that kind of thing before in the original Frankenstein novel and stuff.
Right.
He usually goes through with his promises. Yeah.
You took Frankenstein and you gave him so many more layers because he goes from...
You mean the monster.
Frankenstein's monster, yeah.
Frankenstein's monster, yes, that is absolutely correct. A lot of people, other than me, get that wrong as well. But, yeah, you took him, and first he was this imposing figure in the Arctic, or the North Pole, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he makes a deal with Joppa.
Jotham, yeah.
Okay. To go behind enemy lines during the height of World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And they have mixed agendas. Joffin or Joff?
I say Jotham. Yeah.
What is it?
Jotham.
Yeah. His goal is to get revenge or free the Jews or get revenge on Mengele, correct?
Mm-hmm. For what's been
get revenge on Mengele, yeah.
To his brother Eli.
Mm-hmm.
Now the monster, Frankenstein's monster, his goal is a lot different, but he plays things Jotham's way for much of the novel. But as we get closer to the end, he clearly has a desire that is apart from Jotham's, and you take him from vulnerable to strong, and strong to slightly paranoid, and how many layers did you have to add before you were satisfied with your version of the monster?
Well, the creature's characterization is really there in the original and stuff. It's if you read the original novel, the whole when it goes to his point of view, he's really a very multi-layered kind of character and stuff. He's not the grunting kind of fire bad kind of character he's usually portrayed as, and everything's literally, and he's feeling and thinking, and he kind of he's on the same kick as he was in the novel. It's just he sees a new opportunity to find a mate and everything again. So yeah, that becomes his kind of single-minded purpose again, and it kind of outweighs his capacity for good in the end and everything, because he's willing to deal with the devil to get what he needs.
But so is Jotham, really, because he becomes favored by Mingla, who is supposed to be this monster who despises everyone with any kind of Semitic ancestry. Right? Mm-hmm. But Mingla says, I would take you out of here, and treat you as like a son, when this
I don't know that I ever believed that, though, right? I mean, in my mind, I thought he was just a master manipulator, a psychopath, right? That would just say anything that he wanted to say to get what he wanted, right?
But isn't the problem, isn't the thing with people like Mingla, at least the fictional version here of him, is that they believe their own righteousness. It's just a harder brand of righteousness. So I did believe him. Maybe I'm a sucker, but I don't know. What do you think about that, Edward?
I think Mengele believes himself up to a point. Like he really does believe he's doing this great terror thing for for humanity and everything, and all this. So he does kind of believe himself after a while. And the real Mengele had a son and everything, and I kind of was playing on the fact that Yoth kind of becomes like a surrogate to him, and everything, like a surrogate son, a stand-in, because he knows he has to leave his family behind and everything because of his work and all this. So it's kind of like he latches on emotionally as much as a psychopath like that can,
Right.
He definitely does think he feels something, but it only goes up to a point, obviously, because once he's confronted with the creature, any kind of soft feeling he had for Yotham out the door, because there's a bigger prize now in front of him,
Right. As we see, you say Yotham or Jotham? What do you?
I always say Yotham in my mind. Yotham. I'm not sure that I'm saying it right, but
Yotham and the monster, as they travel deeper into Germany, and I think parts of Russia.
I don't think they go to Russia.
I think he got to the edge of like where the Russians were coming in and taking back, German land and everything. So
we see them stay with German families, and we see the monster just absolutely taken with these children. And it's interesting to see him form a bond, just like he does in most of the movies and books, that populate his mythos, his archetype, But to see him, who's like could be construed as like a dark genius type figure, given the right tools, because he's had time to learn and he's made up of all these other human beings. We see a softer side of him when he's dealing with children. And that's humanized him so much that really touched me, that you did it in a way that I've never seen done with Frankenstein's monster before.
I think, thank you. I think he's fascinated by youth, or he would be, you know what I mean? Because youth is the one thing he has no memory of his own youth, and he has no experience with, the process of aging and everything. So to him, like a youth is like this, a unicorn to him, basically. And
he was born corrupted. He had no innocence, right? So, that's part of, I think, the appeal,
Right. And it's something like he wants himself. He doesn't have a mate, but part of having a mate is having your own progeny and everything. So he's fascinated by children.
Right. Yeah, that sequence of scenes when they're with the German families, that's a great part. That's one of my favorite parts of that book.
Thank you.
It was really well done. And very dark and very dark and realistic, and I think that's what made it, have the most impact. So
thank you. Yeah, I wanted to look at the war from the perspectives that you hadn't really seen that much before, and the German family, it was a family that had actually taken over a house that had been invaded. I think it was a Polish house or something like that.
Right.
And, yeah. So I wanted to see, what kind of mindset were those people in, especially when the Russians were approaching to take everything back and they were terrified and all this.
Right.
It was just an interesting perspective, I thought.
Yeah, I thought that was very good. Yeah. The one thing that I had a couple of issues with it, and I don't know why Jeremy doesn't remember me telling me talking about this book on this program, but I wasn't quite sure really what the point of the first chapter was, where Mengele goes to see this old friend of his family, and other than just to get the books from the guy, right? But
yeah,
why was he there to begin with? I guess.
It's basically a setup, yeah, for him to find the journals and everything. But why was he there? He was I think the guy was a foreman of his father's factory or something. And
right.
He was on his way to Berlin and he visited, it was basically like going in to visit an old friend or something. And he kind of wasn't into it. It was like he didn't want to be there and everything. It was, I imagine it was more like his father said, "Hey, stop in and see, so-and-so, he'll treat you right. He has, he was a friend from the old days and all this." And I could see that he didn't want to be there and everything. But
I just didn't. I was just like, "What is it?" Obviously he had to get the books somehow, right? Mm-hmm. But he didn't know that the books were going to even be there, right? That was a surprise.
He had no idea. Yeah.
So I was just thinking, I don't know.
The
scene for some reason was kind of like after I thought that something else would happen later on that would give that scene more. I don't know, more reason to exist other than getting the books. Because you could have just gotten the books. I don't know. You needed to have a whole scene about it, right? I guess, but that's just being nitpicky, I think. Right. So
I feel like if it had been done any other way, it would seem like he didn't earn that little nugget of alchemical lore. I feel like
he had to have the materials, right? You know what I mean? Those materials he had to have those in his hands, right, to be able to fit into the story. But I don't know. I just think there maybe could have been a better way for him to get him, I guess, because it just didn't seem to fit with Mengele's character that he would, because this guy, he was already set up in the party. He didn't need this guy at all for any social climbing, right? And it just seems like his character is all about power, and he only uses people or engage with people, right, for opportunity. And it didn't seem like it didn't serve his psychopathic needs for power, right? Seemed like it was genuinely it just seemed like it didn't fit quite with his character. But everything else, as far as Mengele goes, seems to be like he did a good amount of research as to what his personality was like, and what he, his interactions with the boys in this, concentration camp, the twins and all that. I mean, the candy stuff, that's a historical part of the historical record, and that's, chilling, that he would do that.
Yeah, most of the worst, I tell everybody that the worst parts of that are true, like drawing the X's on the kids' bodies for his control experiments and everything. And, all that stuff is from, record. I read, Children of the Flames, so many like horrible accounts of specifically of Mengele and his
I read
twins and everything.
I read The Sunflower by Simon Wiesenthal, who went on to become a major league Nazi hunter over the subsequent decades following World War II. And I just remember in The Sunflower how he talked about a little girl who did not make it out of the camp, and she offered him a sunflower, and it became a symbol of both hope and life. At least as I recall, it's been a long time since I read it. But
offered Mengele a sunflower?
No. Simon Wiesenthal, the Nazi hunter.
Oh, okay.
Post World War II, he wrote something called The Sunflower, and it was nonfiction about his time spent in a camp. And this little girl would offer sunflowers, and she was optimistic even when it was obvious that things were not going to end well, basically, if I recall correctly. But how much research did go into Frank Monstum Fuhrer as far as I'm sure you wanted to get the verisimilitude correct as far as reflecting the reality of what happened through this gothic horror prism, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a ton of. I really, when I resource something historically, I tend to veer towards primary source documents as much as I can. So I looked for a lot of Holocaust accounts. I mentioned Children of the Flames. There was one by Eva Moses Core, who I dedicated the book to. She was one of Mengele's twins, and her and her twin sister were in his zoo or whatever. And she actually ended up. There's a documentary about her called Forgiving Mengele, where she publicly forgave Dr. Mengele for everything that happened, which was amazing to me. Like after all that she's detailed in her work and stuff in her book.
Yeah.
And she runs a Candles Holocaust Museum down in Indiana. What else did I read? I'm looking at my books. She's still around right now. Yeah.
She's got to be what, 90, 100 something?
I don't know. I'm not sure what her age is. But she was a
old.
child when it happened. I think she's 85.
Wow.
Yeah.
I still remember the girl.
Oh my gosh. Actually, she died 2 years ago. I just looked it up. She died in 2019. Yeah, 85.
I don't know if it was the lady you're talking about, but I do remember a woman being, sincerely apologized to by someone who was like a junior officer in, the Nazi party at the time. And they said, please forgive me. I'm so sorry, and I didn't know and all this, And she said that she prayed for God to forgive him for her, to come through her and allow her to give her the strength to forgive him.
Mm-hmm.
And she said she felt it then. And that's,
that's incredible to me. That's like an amazing amount.
I don't think that's a bad thing, I know a lot of people rag on religion these days, but I don't think that's a bad thing at all, to have that kind of mercy in the light of, such inhumanity.
Yeah, very inspiring. I said I dedicated the book to her because I just thought that was the most amazing gesture.
I'm thinking of Corrie ten Boom, I think was her name. Corrie ten Boom, right?
Okay.
But there were a lot of these stories. Yeah, I mean, there were all these surviving stories, and you could go on for the rest of your life finding people from all these little nooks of society, people who were conspiring on both sides, against both sides, in neighboring countries, right inside Germany, people who disagreed with the Nazis, but disliked American occupation. I mean, nothing is cut and drawn from, whole cloth one way.
Yeah.
I think we lose perspective of that. People could hate the American occupation and still be sympathetic with what happened to the Jews. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are all these different perspectives, but I think we need to mention another atrocity in politics and history, which you managed to also turn into a fiction narrative, and that was Andersonville.
Yeah. The Confederate prison at Andersonville was horrific for the amount of prisoner abuse that went on. Not even always abuse, but just sheer neglect, because the South was just overwhelmed by having to care for prisoners, and that actually became, according to some sources, part of the Northern victory strategy was to overwhelm them and refuse prisoner exchanges so that their resources had to go towards holding on to caring for Union prisoners of war, and they couldn't do it. They were already stretched too thin and everything, trying to feed their army. So that was actually part of, I don't know if it was Grant or part of somebody's policy, was to stop the prisoner exchanges because it would spread the South even more thin and everything. But it had a horrible effect.
It was Grant. Places. It was General Grant at the time. Yeah, right.
So what's the supernatural element to this one?
In this one, it was, I believe there's so the Union had a spy network called the Black Dispatch that were African-American ex-slaves and freeborn men and women that would act as kind of like an intelligence network. And because they would go into, you could have a serving woman inside. There was one, and I'm trying to remember her name. I think her name was Bowser, Mary Bowser or something. She was she posed as a house servant inside the Confederate White House, basically, and was able to spy plans and because she was just a non-entity to anybody, to any of the high command. They would just discuss whatever in front of her and assume she was too ignorant to understand everything, and she would actually pass the information on. So anyway, I have a character in there who's a Black Dispatch agent, and he is called forth by Mary Todd Lincoln, who had a spiritual advisor at the time and everything. And Mary Todd Lincoln has this vision of like blood kind of bubbling up from Andersonville and everything camp and kind of spreading over the entire country. So she takes it as this prophetic vision and everything. And this particular agent has come from is a scion of like hoodoo and voodoo families from New Orleans and stuff. Okay. So he has this mystical background, and they basically get him to infiltrate the camp as a prisoner. Like, so many people are trying to break out of Andersonville, and this guy's trying to break in. So he gets in and using the he's African American, and using the kind of the Southern attitude towards African Americans to just kind of, you know, ignore them in the camp and everything. He's kind of allowed to investigate and figure out what the supernatural threat might that she foresaw his vision and everything. You know,
because they were just treated like furniture essentially at the time, right? So I mean, it was just like they would say anything they want around them. Yeah. Or so that's interesting. That sounds like a good book. I want to read that. I wouldn't mind reading this one. And there's another one that you've written, or I think it's maybe a series where it's like a Jewish mystic in the West, in the American West. Is that right?
Yeah, he's a Hasidic gunslinger, and he's tracking the renegade who trade his mystical Jewish astral travel and macabre rides to the great ones from Lovecraft's mythos and stuff. So it's a weird story. He's tracking him across the 1880s Southwest territories and stuff. Yeah,
I'd like to read this. This looks good.
Yeah, there's four.
Interesting.
This is a multi-volume series, isn't it?
Yeah.
I
think it's at least two, right?
There's four. High Plains Drifter.
Oh, is there?
No name. Had Glyphs Will Travel in Once Upon a Time in the Weird West. Yeah.
Yeah, those look really good. I'll probably check those out. I've got a question that's spoilery. I don't know if you care or not. Can I ask you a spoilery question?
Sure.
All right. People who are listening, this is spoilery.
Yeah, plug your ears.
So, why did you kill Mengele at the end of the Monstrum Fuhrer book?
I played around with the idea of him... part of his research was leading him towards creating doubles of himself and everything. So I knew in history he actually does survive and go down to South America.
Right.
In Argentina, I think it was. But I had it in the book that's one of his doubles. And so I wanted to explain away. I wanted a more satisfying, kind of cathartic ending for the villain, basically, in that, you know, if he
so was it in the text that you say it's one of his doubles? I don't recall that.
It's more implied that he's creating doubles and stuff, because I think they kill his double in Auschwitz. Like, I think the creature stuffs him into a can or something and kills him. But it's implied that his research has kind of led towards the creation of like doubles for a high.
Yeah, because it wasn't explicit in the book that his double was what escaped. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I like that idea, right? That it was his double that escaped, or he escaped, or his double got killed. I don't know which one, right? You know, so I mean, are you thinking that it was his double that escaped to Argentina, or he did?
My thing is that
when it got killed.
My thing is that his double has escaped and everything, and that's because actually
more satisfying for justice in your mind, at least
for the book.
Yeah,
I think,
yeah. Because that was one thing I was like, I don't know how much I like that, but but now that you say that, and it makes sense. It makes sense with what they were doing with the creating of doubles and all that. Yeah. So
part of it was the doppelganger project. I think I called it in the book or something like that. Yeah, it was. They were ultimately trying to get all the high party officials out using this, biotechnology, basically. But
so you didn't use that explanation to touch on Hess, though, did you? Rudolph Hess. He wasn't in the book at all.
Oh, how he kind of no, he wasn't. But maybe like his personality switch.
That would make sense, though.
That would have been interesting.
That would have fit with him.
Yeah.
And his whole story where he crash lands in Scotland or Ireland, right? And a lot of people think that that was a legitimate double there. He spent the rest of his life in prison.
There's a great take on this. Has nothing to do with me, but there's a great take on Hess in this graphic novel called it was The Shadow, the 40s character, The Shadow, called Hitler's Astrologer, and it's basically that like Hess, the Shadow gets to Hess and like clouds his mind and causes him to do that and everything, and to kind of explain his like strange actions and everything. It was a cool take on it, I thought, but it's worth checking out.
Yeah, I like The Shadow. It's one of
Gregor actually did a little expose on The Shadow.
Well, not an expose.
What would you call it? Like
I don't know. I was just basically talking about the history of the Shadow and the and the creator of the Shadow, right? And how he was a maniac at the typewriter. And,
total machine. Walter Gibson.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of The Shadow. It's cool.
Yeah, I've always liked The Shadow since I was a kid.
Did you listen to a lot of radio serials growing up like that?
Yeah, that's where I first encountered him. My dad had like old time radio tapes in his Bronco, and we'd listen to him on car trips and stuff. And that was where I first got into him.
Yeah,
who else?
I was introduced to The Shadow on that movie that came out, which was kind of but I did like go listen to the
with Baldwin.
Yeah,
Baldwin.
I thought the movie was kind of but I did listen to some of the radio dramas, and I actually enjoyed them quite a bit.
Did any of you guys read the comic in the 80s where they brought him into the modern day and everything?
Yeah, with Sienkiewicz.
A lot of people don't like it. I love it, though. I
love that. Yeah, they didn't like the fact that he had Uzis instead of pistols and everything.
Yeah, I thought that was great. I really thought that.
Yeah, I thought it was too. Yeah, and then there was the one that what's his name did too. What was it? It was is it Sienkiewicz is the guy that did the
Bill
one you're talking about? Sienkiewicz.
Yeah, he did the. I think he did the first couple issues of the continuation. It was God, I'm trying to remember. The guy that did American Flag is the one that first brought him back, and it was four issues, and then they expanded it into like a longer series.
Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name either, but I know it dealt with like a person in an iron lung, and it had AIDS, like it involved AIDS in some way.
Yeah.
And, I can't remember the guy's name now, because I loved that series when it came out, and then I
loved
Kyle
Baker was the artist. Kyle Baker took over the art from Bill Sienkiewicz. I'm trying to remember who the writer is. I did a whole thing on him on my blog because I really loved. That's one of my favorite runs of a comic.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's fantastic. Yeah. I love The Shadow, and that was one of the things that cemented it in my my brain.
Yeah, for me too, definitely.
Yeah,
a great take, and a lot of diehard fans don't like the update and everything. I want to keep them in the 30s and 40s, but I thought that was brilliant. I thought it was a really brilliant take.
Oh yeah, I thought so too. Yeah, and I just like that it's like you could see that it's pretty much obvious precursor for the the Batman template, and it's the rich dude that's secretly fighting crime and all that. But I think The Shadow is a little bit more interesting in that various different takes have him not even being the guy that he claims he is, or he's not even Lamont Cranston. He's some other guy taking over his maybe. Yeah.
I think it was Andrew Helfer was the writer, and Howard Chaykin did the original miniseries.
Howard Chaykin, that's exactly.
I just looked up my own blog, and there it was. So yeah,
Howard Chaykin, that's the one. That was a fantastic miniseries. Yeah,
one of my favorites.
I didn't actually get around to The Shadow in the 80s, but I did read Phantom 2040 in the 90s, and I caught up on his father being the previous Phantom. So the Phantom.
Whose father being the previous Phantom?
The Phantom. I mean,
I thought you were saying there was like a Shadow Phantom crossover where they were saying that the Shadow was the father of the Phantom.
There probably was a crossover at some point.
Probably.
The Phantom,
like a Wold Newton thing or something.
Yeah, the Phantom was another one of those popular, sometimes radio dramas, sometimes television, right? And sometimes
I think it was a comic strip.
I remember it correctly. The Phantom was the purple guy in the jungle, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Slam Evil, with the ring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They made a movie with him, and a Phantom movie as well around the same time, I think, as The Shadow.
Yep.
Billy Zane was the Phantom, I think.
Yeah.
I wonder why neither one of those really did that great, though.
I mean, The Shadow. I mean, they weren't great movies. And
They're not so hot.
The Shadow was the better of the two.
Yeah, and the Phantom,
Batman is
the Phantom,
consistent.
in modern day, just looks goofy.
So Batman has a real heart. Every time that anyone dusts off the Batman franchise, it's like they do it with a big core to it. And the Shadow and the Phantom both did not have that big heart in the middle.
Batman has an awesome rogues gallery too that keeps coming back, and
the
Shadow just kills his enemies, so but nobody ever returns. Right? So.
Right, exactly. I love the fact that the Shadow is this big spy network. I really enjoy.
Yeah, his agents are awesome. Yeah, his agents are really awesome. Though the fact that fans want to keep him in the 30s are what keep him from crossing over, I think, because people got to be able to relate,
right.
Keeping him solidified in the 30s and 40s. Although that works for Indiana Jones, it doesn't work for every character, I guess. And I think the Shadow's one of them. I think he needs to be updated in a new modern day kind of setting and everything. It just works, I think, but people are resistant for some reason. I don't know why.
So back to Monstrum Furor. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I think that maybe our man Jeremy enjoyed it a little bit more than me. I had some small issues with it, really, but overall it was fantastic.
One of my favorite books in 2018.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Go ahead,
but
Greg.
I would definitely read a sequel, right, where the monster follows all the Nazis to the United States with Project Paperclip.
Yeah,
and tries to get
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
That would be good. But I'm not suggesting you do whatever you want to do. But I'm just saying I liked it enough that I would read a sequel. Right.
Cool.
So
we're just planting seeds here.
Yeah, we're just
sounds interesting.
We do that a lot here with authors. Now we've covered the gamut of your bibliography. I think I don't know that we missed anyone up to getting to the new release. Did we miss anything up to this point?
Well, I did a sequel to Dracula. Actually, I try to do something with all the classic monsters, and I did a sequel to Dracula involved Van Helsing, because Van Helsing's my favorite character to come from Dracula besides Dracula, and it's an epistolary novel called Terovalas of Van Helsing kind of suffers a mental breakdown after having to kill Dracula's brides and everything. It sends him into a spiral, and he winds up in Jack Seward's asylum. And when he has all these fixations, and when he finally gets out, he volunteers to kind of take a holiday back to America and take the body of Quincy Morris, the cowboy who died fighting Dracula, back to the Morris family ranch in Texas. And then all these preternatural happenings start kind of going on, but he's not quite sure if it's his own deluded mind kind of returning, or if it's what it appears to be to him. Because I wanted to do more stories with Van Helsing, not just kind of fighting vampires, but also just kind of being like he's always thought of as a vampire hunter, but I always think of him as this occult detective, with all these,
right. So this isn't a vampire novel, then. This is a different.
It's not
creature.
A vampire novel.
Okay,
yeah,
that's
it
cool.
It is a classic creature, but it's not. It's not vampires. Because I wanted to move Van Helsing on. I actually have done. So I did a short story recently with the Van Helsing character where he's. It was for Sherlock Holmes and the Occult Detectives from Berlanger Books, and I did another Van Helsing story where he's kind of tracking down Jack the Ripper and runs into Sherlock Holmes and all that. And so I've kind of I've plotted to do more of those books to kind of turn that into a series. It hasn't happened quite yet, but I'm about 40,000 words into a sequel to that, actually.
Oh, that sounds great. Yeah, I love Dracula, Van Helsing, Sherlock Holmes, all that, and then the Jack the Ripper. So that's definitely within my
your purview.
My purview. I love that stuff. Yeah, like From Hell is a fantastic graphic novel.
Yeah, that's my favorite graphic novel of all time. I was really into that. So
it's brilliant. Yeah.
Other books though, yeah. So Terovalas, I did a couple of straight westerns, Buff T and Coyote's Trail. Those are from early on in my career when I was trying to be a western writer, and it just I never really started gaining any attention selling stuff until I added Ghoulies and stuff like that.
Wait, what are Ghoulies?
like in I think Macabre Rider is what I did after I did my 2 straight westerns. I started introducing like ghoulies and
he's not talking about the little
not the
midgets
actual
running
ghoulies,
around
coming out of the toilet. No, not the
he's
actual
not talking about that, Jeremy.
And then I have an Arthurian novel, The Knight with Two Swords.
Whoa!
About Sir Balin, the knight with 2 swords. And
Gregor happens to be reading Le Morte d'Arthur right now.
Oh, great! It's directly from that. The tale of Sir Balin and Sir Balan, I think, is in there. Yeah, him and his brother. This is the guy that loses the Holy Grail. So it's kind of a prequel to all that goes on in Le Morte d'Arthur and stuff.
Okay, yeah, I have to definitely put that on my list. Yeah, that looks good. So you have something new coming out? What you got coming out now?
Tuesday. Oh, and I have one more book, Conquer, which is a collection of it's sort of like Macabre Rider in that it's a collection of episodic kind of stories that are arranged as a novel and everything. That's about a 70s it's 1977 Harlem occult detective stories, so it's kind of like Shaft meets Constantine. I say Constantine, but really it's Brother Voodoo, if you know Brother Voodoo at all. So it's kind of like a lot of hoodoo and stuff like that, and it takes place in 1977 Harlem. Kind of like I'm really into blaxploitation horror from the 70s. I think of that as like the golden age of African American horror.
Rob Zombie actually finds it the same way, that he always specifically says either 1978 or 1979. So that's only a span of like 3 or 4 years. That people are still swearing by to this day. And I guess the Motion Picture Association of America stepped in and ruined everyone's fun very quickly, right?
This was, to me, that was the first time, like, there had been, like, African Americans in horror before then and everything in horror movies, but a lot of it was, like, they were the exotic other, and they were kind of portrayed in, like, bone in the nose, voodoo, crazy movies with white protagonists and stuff like that. Even something great like White Zombie is a great movie, but it's still kind of, there's no African American characters that really have any agency. But in the 70s, especially starting with Blackula, it's like, black people and black characters took a center stage and started telling their own kind of horror stories and everything, and with their own their own cultural, their own culture basically, and everything, telling the stories of their own culture. And it's really some cool stuff. Not just, I think Blackula is a great movie. I think JD's Revenge, which is about this, I think he's a pimp or something that comes back into another guy's body. There's Sugar Hill, which is this woman, her husband, her man is killed by the mob and everything. And so she makes a deal with a voodoo Loa to raise an army of zombies to take them out and everything. It's a great movie. It's really cool. And Dr. Black and Mr. White, that's a good one. Mr. Hyde, I can't remember the title always, but William Crane, the same director of Dracula and Blackula, and I think he should be mentioned in the same breath as like Todd Browning and James Whale in terms of for African Americans, because he's the guy. He did 2 amazing African American horror movies, blaxploitation horror movies, and they get a rap of being kind of like silly and everything, but if you really sit down and watch some of them, they're really cool. And I was trying to really kind of homage that and everything with Conquer here and everything. The character's name is John Conquer.
Ganja and Hess was also
Ganja and Hess. Yeah,
that was a memorable one, I thought. Well, who was your favorite of the 3? Would it be Shaft, Dolomite, or Superfly?
I'm a Shaft guy because my cousin got me into Shaft when I was a kid and everything. He just was always telling me to watch it and all this kind of stuff. And then I read all the Ernest Tidyman novels. So really, Conquer is a offshoot of my love of blaxploitation horror and Ernest Tidyman. So good stuff.
Yeah, this looks good.
So,
and there's you have another book coming out as well.
New book
2 days from now.
Yes, on Tuesday.
I'm very intrigued. I don't know a lot about Zora Neale Hurston, but I recognize the name when it's synonymous with Their Eyes Were Watching God.
Yeah, that was her masterpiece, her big
So
big one.
She's going up against. It's bad enough that she has to contend with like outright
racism and 1930s America. Yeah, but.
So is the racism controlled and steered by these eldritch Lovecraftian forces that you set up as her, rivals in the book, or
I didn't go so much that route because it seemed like Nyarlathotep and all those guys would kind of not really be that involved in humanity to care what shade their prey is and everything.
It seemed like it would also take away the blame, right, from the humans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It would take away the human agency of it and everything.
Right.
So for me, Zora Neale Hurston, this one's called Rainbringer, Zora Neale Hurston Against the Lovecraftian Mythos, and it's also a collection of short stories that kind of tell a sequence that turn them into a novel and everything. Basically, 3 of them were for Golden Goblin Press. I did a couple of short stories for them and everything, and then I expanded them. And so basically, Zora Neale Hurston is like considered the queen of the Harlem Renaissance. She's this great writer and everything. But her real life is so incredible. She traveled alone as a Black woman through 1930s South, through turpentine camps and to New Orleans, and she went to she studied voodoo in Haiti and Obeah practices in Jamaica. She did all these ethnographic works and travels, study travels and everything, armed with just a 44 on her hip like a gunslinger. I mean,
wow.
All by herself. Yeah, she's a total badass, like in real life, and it's very cool to. I found a quote on her when I was reading about her. I first discovered her in college, reading Their Eyes Were Watching God and everything. Sure, but then I read The Serpent and the Rainbow. I think when I was researching some kind of voodoo story in later years and everything, and I came across her name and I started looking up her books, and she wrote firsthand accounts of like encountering zombies. She photographed the first photographed zombie or something like that in Haiti and everything. Like.
Wow.
And so she's quoted a lot, and she did all these like. Her thing was you have to see there to be there. I think was her quote or something like that. So you have to be there to see there. So she actually she was inducted into hoodoo rituals and everything. She spent like 3 weeks naked on a couch under a snakeskin with trying to commune with like this entity and everything. I mean, it's really like crazy. Her real life stuff is cool enough to make like a good paranormal book and everything. But I kind of dipped into the blank spaces in her history and in her timeline, and just introduced her with the mythos and everything, because there's a great quote about her saying that research is unlocking the cosmic secrets of the universe and all this kind of stuff. And it just had a very Lovecraftian feel, and it set me off on this big tangent. And so she's pictured with the snake on the cover and everything, because she was inducted into hoodoo by Marie Laveau's grandnephew in real life, a guy named Doc Turner and everything. But in the universe of this book and everything, her patron is Yig, the serpent god and everything. And Yig has kind of like directed humanity, and he's kind of the father of hoodoo and everything. And he goes under the name Damballa, for voodoo and everything. So she deals with voodoo and hoodoo, which are two separate things. And so it's kind of like her. I took specific instances from her life, specific research trips she took, to like the one to Haiti, and there was one with the churches, the snake handling churches in Georgia, I think, and then the Gullah of the South Sea Islands and everything, and I just kind of inducted like mythos elements and stuff. There's my favorite one of the book takes place in 1930s Harlem. She was actually a drama coach for the Federal Theater Writers Project, and she ended up in the story. She ends up working under Orson Welles, who did an all-black production of Macbeth for the Lafayette Theater down there in Harlem and everything. But in this story, it's called King Yeller. Somebody slips him a copy of The King in Yellow, and he becomes obsessed with producing it. And she kind of learns the history of this cursed play and everything, and she has to basically stop him from calling forth Hastur and all this kind of stuff. So that's the kind of thing it is. It's a lot of those kind of tweaks on her actual amazing career. And that comes out great. Tuesday. Yeah, that comes out Tuesday. So.
Yep.
So Orson Welles is a character in it. He's a pretty big character.
Orson Welles is like a big character in the King Yeller. It's a novella in the center of the book, and everything. A lot of them are like 8,000 word stories or something, but King Yeller is a novella. And
Well,
big Orson Welles
story
guy.
within the story, like William Faulkner's The Bear, right? Like that.
I'm not familiar with that one, but
I love it when people do stuff like that.
Oh, this is more of like a mosaic novel, right?
Yeah, it's like it jumps like a couple of years sometimes. We'll catch up with her in 1935, and then we'll be in 1940. She took a trip down to Honduras in real life to find a lost city in the jungle. Wow. And so in I think 1947 or 48 or something. So there's that in there, and I tied her into if you've ever read The Call of Cthulhu, there's that dream that all artists kind of have at one point of Cthulhu when he stirs or something. Mm-hmm. And I have luminaries of the Harlem Renaissance experiencing that in Harlem, at the same time as in Call of Cthulhu and everything. They all have this dream of Cthulhu stirring under the waves and rising and all this. And it kind of becomes like a source of inspiration for her and everything, and her career, that she has this kind of shadow career that runs parallel to, her real life exploits and everything, where she's called upon by Yig to kind of fight certain forces and everything, and foil certain plots and everything. And there's ties into, I'm a big Robert E. Howard guy. So there's ties into like Conan and the Serpent Ring of Volusia and all kinds of stuff. And,
wow. Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, I'll probably have to get this. This is a short story month. I celebrate it every year.
Okay, great.
I'll get this to read some of these stories this month.
I tapped the zeitgeist. Perfect.
Yeah.
Who is your favorite Robert E. Howard character?
I'm a big Solomon Kane fan. Solomon Kane was a huge influence on Macabre Rider, actually. And as a matter of fact, there's at one point there's a character who bears the staff of Solomon and I make reference to Solomon Kane and everything. Not outright, but it's the same staff and everything that I think Inyaga was the name of the character that had Solomon Kane's staff in the Robert E. Howard stories and everything. And it was Moses' staff that he kind of like, and it has this whole history in Macabre Rider that's been.
Oh, so it's actually supposed to be Moses' staff?
It's the staff of Moses, yeah. And it's in Solomon Kane, like he bears the staff of Moses towards the end. I think there's a cat head on it, but carved because it's been passed through so many cultures and hands and everything that people have made marks on it and stuff. And so it's almost cool. like an artifact, you know what I mean? Like a magic.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I haven't read any of the Solomon Kane stories. I've only read like a handful of the Conan ones, and I loved them. I wasn't expecting to like him as much as I did.
Good stuff. He's a poetry to his like action writing and everything that I love. Yeah. It's really great.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to get into some more Robert E. Howard.
Are you familiar with Nick Mamatas?
Yeah, I know Nick on Facebook. Yeah.
So Move Underground. Are you familiar with how he did something similar to what you're doing here? Only it was Jack Kerouac and William S. Burroughs who are tired at the end of their generation and going to fight these eldritch Lovecraftian gods themselves.
I've been wanting to read that one. Yeah, I did. I didn't actually. I knew the premise of that novel, and I didn't realize it was Nick actually until you just said it. So yeah. It's a cool idea. There was another one where they took some writer, and I can't remember the author's name, but he took Robert E. Howard and H.P. Lovecraft, and they kind of went across country and ended up in California fighting some kind of eldritch horror or something too.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I like.
Was the Ballad of Black Tom at all an influence on Rainbringer?
I haven't read the Ballad of Black Tom. I kind of avoided it while I was doing this and everything, just because I figured, let me read it after I'm done, so I know I'm not. I can't say that I grabbed it, I cribbed anything from it if I did, because I didn't read it.
Yeah, I can't imagine, based on what you're telling me, that it doesn't sound like there's really anything that's really that common between the two. So.
I didn't. This is not it was important to me. I didn't want to do Rainbringer and write Zora Neale Hurston as like a black trauma kind of book. You know what I mean? Because I don't think I'm not the guy to write a book like that or anything. I don't think. But Zora had such an interesting upbringing. A unique upbringing. She was born in Notsaluga, Alabama, I think, or something like that. But she wound up. In Eatonville is what she called her hometown, and it was I like to think of it. I think I heard it called as like a cradle of black excellence. It was a town entirely run by African Americans. There's African American mayor. Her father was the mayor at one point, the preacher, and one of the lawmakers and stuff like that. And so she kind of she kind of went into the world with this self-assurance that a lot of people of her culture and everything didn't have and everything. So racist white people and black people who were fighting for civil rights at the same time, nobody knew what to make of her because she was so self-assured and everything. She posed as an African princess with Fanny Rice, I think. I can't think of her name, to get into a restaurant, to get seated at a white restaurant and everything. And it was believed, people believed her. They seated her and stuff. So
wow.
She was really something. Yeah. She's really she had a thing. She has a great quote, and I don't want to murder it, but basically the gist of it is like, I am aware that there are people that are prejudiced and racist and everything, but why they would want to deny themselves the pleasure of my company, I don't understand. So, yeah, she's a great chick. I mean, really awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm excited. It's been so long since you've had a new release to talk about. Seems like. How long has it been?
Oh well, Conquer came out in December, but I guess it kind of flew under the radar and stuff like that. So I try to do like 1 or 2 books a year. I'm gonna have another one probably later this year. I'm gonna re-release a superhero novel I did way back in, I don't know, like 5 or 6 years ago. They got lost in a collection.
Wow,
and
I didn't know that such a thing existed. Well, who are the superheroes?
This is like a superhero of my own creation and everything, called what did you say, what are my favorite superheroes? Or
I mean, what kind of superheroes represent best what you like in them, in superheroes?
I kind of got an old-fashioned folksy kind of like for like Captain Marvel's my favorite superhero. So like
now Shazam,
you talking about Shazam guy?
Yeah, Shazam.
Okay,
not Captain Marvel, but the original Fawcett comic.
The original Superman, basically.
The original, yeah. Well, actually, I think he came out a couple months after Superman, but then he overtook Superman in sales, and they kind of
did he really? Well, Drew Carey owned the rights to Shazam for so long. There's a fascinating backstory there with the rights to Shazam, and Marvel subsequently had a character named Captain Marvel. First they were male, and the DC and Marvel would go back and forth changing it. Okay, we'll call him Captain Marvel, and she's something else, or he's something else, and it just went on and on like that.
Ms. Marvel.
Yeah, Miss Marvel.
This is really exciting.
Yeah, I did Captain Marvel, but I mean, this is definitely not a 4-color superhero kind of story and everything. It's very gritty. It's about it's kind of about a character who's dedicated to fighting specifically child abuse in Hollywood, in like the LA area and everything like that, because he was himself a child actor, and it's like his specific hero gene or whatever activates and gives him the powers of basically Peter Pan. He can fly, he's very fast and agile and stuff like this, but he's arrested in development at like 14 or 15 or something like that. So he's a grown man in a 15-year-old body and everything, and he's like the book's called Perennial, and it's basically about he kind of sticks to the shadows because in this world there are no super children, and it would cause like a big political upheaval if there were super children, because people are kind of wary about superheroes already. Mm-hmm. And even though he is an adult, he sticks to the shadows, and then there's a cataclysm. Basically, he has to fight a supervillain that's trying to that's basically like a Hulk kind of character that's tearing up the downtown area or something, and he's the only guy there. So he comes into the spotlight, and he attracts a lot of negative attention and and an old enemy that's been like waiting for him to come out and everything. And
so
it's
what's
basically
that called? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's called Perennial. And
okay.
The basic premise of it is beyond all that backstory and everything. He's the thing that kind of like is his enemy and wants him, draws him out and everything. Presents him with a diehard scenario. There's like a tower packed with hostages and guarded by supervillains on every level, and he has to make his way through individually.
No, that sounds fun. Yeah.
So it's like a game of death, Die Hard kind of thing with a superhero, basically.
So you said that was published, and then you pulled it?
It was published by Ragnarok Publications. I can't remember the year, a couple of years back, and it was originally supposed to be a standalone novel, and that was how I wrote it. But they included it in in an anthology collection called Humanity 2.0 or something like that, and it basically totally got buried and lost and everything, and then the company went under. I want to say it's about 80,000 words, something like that.
Really? And they put that in like a collection. That's
they
odd.
put it in a collection, and it was like people were expecting a short story, and it was like they got this big ass long thing front loaded in the anthology, and it was a terrible decision, and it totally got buried. And so I'm bringing it back.
So that was the only one that was like a novel in the collection.
Yeah. It
wasn't like a collection of 4 novels or something. It was
it was not. There were a couple of. It was all short stories after that, and people were like, the people that did read it were like, "What's this big ass story doing in the middle of like?" It's not a story. It was supposed to be a short novel, you know. But,
yeah,
it makes sense. That makes sense to do that if it's like a novella or something. But an 80,000 word novel, that's pretty down.
It was a bizarre,
or like the old Reader's Digest thing, where it's like 3 books smashed
or if
together.
If it was serialized in a couple of collections, I could understand something. But it was just, it was written and with the understanding there would be a novel on its own, and then they sandwiched it with this other thing, and it didn't work. And so I'm bringing that out this year. Yeah.
And so that was the first piece in that anthology as well?
Yeah, they front loaded it, which made it even worse because then everybody was expecting every subsequent entry to be, and it was not at all.
Yeah, it should have been the last thing in there. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a shared world, but I had to rip out all the shared world stuff, kind of rename it and all that kind of thing.
Okay, I gotcha.
That's mainly what I did to once I got the rights back and everything. So that'll be out later this year.
I just want to say that when I read Monstrum Furor, it occupied many of my afternoons when I had time to read it, and I appreciate it greatly that it just enhanced my enjoyment of the Frankenstein monster mythos so much. Because he was so layered with you. Who is your favorite example of the monster from any medium?
I want to say, and let me make sure that I have the right actor and everything. But The Bride, the version of him in The Bride, I really liked. Did you ever see The Bride with
Sting's in it, right?
Sting, with Sting and I think it was Sean, the one who wanted to be Catwoman, Sean Young, from Blade Runner.
I've not seen it. That's a good version.
It's very good, and I think the creature. I want to say the creature was Randy Quaid. I'm checking it out right now to make sure, but he's great. He's a great creature. Yeah, he made a good creature, honestly. But let me make sure it was him before I say
this is from like the 80s,
I'm gonna embarrass myself. No. Okay, wait. It wasn't Randy Quaid. It was Clancy Brown.
Yeah, Uncle Eddie isn't gonna be the Frankenstein's monster. Come on.
It wasn't Randy Quaid. My mistake. It was Clancy Brown as Victor the Monster. Yeah, and he did a great creature. Yeah, in The Bride.
Clancy Brown is underrated. I can see that.
Oh, hell yes.
Great, yeah, he's a great actor.
Huh. I remember that coming out. I've never seen it, though.
I recommend it. It's good, It's another thing. Like a lot of my stuff, it goes under the radar, but it's not bad, You should check it out.
It does. What are some other... You know what? It's interesting because I have this moment, this epiphany that I seem to have every week on this show where I like to take 2 different elements and smash them together. And I realize that we have that in common because you've done that with many of your own books. So what are some other mashups that you've thought of that you hope to get to?
Oh, geez.
Well, don't tell us now because someone's going to rip you off.
If you want to tell us, it's fine. Whatever.
Oh, gosh. What am I? Geez. I want to do a vampire story set in prison. I want to do a send-up of the prison system with... I've got this story called Ditch Bank Blade that I'm trying to expand into a novel and everything about this vampire hunter who is so relentless tracking this vampire. And this will be a straight up vampire novel. So relentless tracking this vampire that the vampire does a crime in public so that he can be put into maximum security prison. Yeah, like Lights Out. Somebody told me about Lights Out right as I was explaining this to somebody else. So thanks for telling me.
So
I'm not sure how much it is like Lights Out. But,
could you outright Nate Southard with it? If that matters,
I don't know.
Make a difference. You think you could?
I don't know. Does the premise sound familiar? Because this is another one I've avoided because somebody told me, "Oh, it sounds kind of like Lights Out," and I'm like, "Blah blah blah." I don't want to hear it, But so the idea is that the vampire hunter
with that kind of thing.
The vampire hunter then commits a crime specifically to go into the supermax prison to be able to take out this vampire and everything. Because the guy's just sitting in prison thinking, "I'll outlive this. I'll sit here and I'll outlive this guy." And so this vampire hunter goes into the jail to get him, basically.
See, that's smart, though. I mean, yeah, if you're patient and you've got eternal life, I mean, you could wait it out. They say life sentence. Well, if I were human, hey, listen, if I were human, I would have already been dead. So technically, you guys can let me go. You could get someone, a defense lawyer, to argue that. I don't know.
So I guess, but here's my question, though, with that premise,
okay,
though, right? So if the vampire goes in there and waits it out, I mean, are you planning on having him just escape at some point after the guy who wants to kill him dies? Is that what you're getting at?
That was his idea. That was my idea, is that he would basically just then, mind control or whatever his way out, or start turning the guards into vampires themselves and kind of taking over this prison from the inside, and just whatever strikes his whim. He's this ageless, sadistic bastard and everything. And I'm not sure what Nate Southard's book is like that. I as soon as I said vampires in prison, though, to somebody else, they brought it up, and I was like, geez, I hope it's nothing like that, because that's kind of what I want to do. But
I think you can pull it off. I think you can pull it off in your own way. Definitely based on your track record. And it is fun to mash different, different sides of life, together and see what you get. It is fun, so I
like
get
from Star Trek, infinite diversity and infinite combinations from Star Trek. But
so, are you a believer in alternate realities or parallel universes? Science.
I think so.
What is it? New Science magazine. They're always talking about this, but I mean, it seems so speculative that I can't take it as anything other than fancy.
There's no way to prove it. I mean, that's the thing. There's no way to quantify it. But I have a feeling that I feel like I don't belong a lot. So I feel like I slipped out when the CERN collider did something. I think I like to think that. So my concept of God, and I've tried to explain this to my mom, was always like, if God knows everything, then how can we have free will and everything? And I think every possibility, every single action you take, every decision you can make from a certain point, you do it. Some version of you does it, and then that version of you goes off on that timeline or whatever, and they all just branch out in infinite directions. And I think the idea that when they say that God sees everything and knows everything, he sees all the things that you're gonna do, and he knows what you're gonna do in that moment. That explains that to me. You know what I mean? It's like God is the unquantifiable observer of every reality. That's kind of how I look at it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Wow.
We're
getting deep here, fellas.
Yeah. Sorry.
You're writing these books that are like, if I would have found them in like high school, I would have loved every single one of them. Not that I wouldn't love them now, but it would have been like right in my wheelhouse at that time. You know what I mean? Like, with all these various different combinations that you're talking about, right? I mean, this Monstrum Fuhrer book, that probably would have been my favorite book if I had just happened upon it when I was, in high school or something. Not that I'm saying that it's like high school level, right? But I'm just saying, like, it was just, I was really into all of this stuff, like the Shadow and all these things that we've been talking about, right? It's just, they're just great. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be picking up some of these and kind of in a somewhat of a nostalgia trip, because I mean, I love, Van Helsing, anything related to hoodoo and voodoo, all this stuff is fantastic. And then I'm also fascinated with this, what is it, Jewish mysticism in the West. That sounds like a great combination. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to reading some of these books. It's
surprisingly Jewish mysticism and like esoterica and folklore surprisingly gel really well with Lovecraft and everything. There's a thing about you can't study, you're forbidden to study, Kabbalists are forbidden to study or contemplate what took place, what existed before creation and stuff, because there's a certain line of Jewish mythology that God kind of, and it pervades a lot of mythologies where like the creator kind of wrestled with primordial beings and brought them in line with creation and everything to help in creation, and anything that did not want to help, he expelled and everything. So it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting how much it gelled. I was surprised. It just kind of naturally flowed. So yeah, it's cool stuff to kind of read about.
So you're talking about before there was light and dark, and before they were split. right?
Yeah, there was like an ocean of darkness and chaos and everything. That's in Jewish mysticism and everything. So yeah,
Right.
it fits like perfectly. I wonder if Lovecraft ever read any of that stuff.
That's
I
fascinating.
wouldn't doubt it.
What would you do with Robin Hood right now, if you could?
Robin Hood. I love Robin Hood too. Geez, man, you really threw me at it. An interesting take on Robin Hood. I heard a long time ago that they were going to do a story. I think Ridley Scott was going to do Robin Hood from the point of view of Sheriff of Nottingham, like where the Sheriff of Nottingham is just trying to control, just trying to do his job and can kind of like keep everything, kind of quiet until Richard comes back or if Prince John. He's working for whoever's in charge, and he's just trying to keep the peace and everything. And I never went anywhere. They wound up doing that Russell Crowe Robin Hood, which wouldn't have anything to do with that or anything.
And you know what?
I always thought that was a brilliant idea.
Robin Hood was too pandering, to a certain, audience.
Which one?
Mindset. The Russell Crowe Robin Hood.
I never saw that.
Too pandering, too, openly resentful of monarchy, dealings.
Anti-establishment.
There has to be tension. It has to be, a almost, withheld resentment. But he just lets it fly out and says, "I despise you, King," and it doesn't work.
Yeah. So I would love to run with that idea that they dropped. I thought it was a brilliant idea, and I couldn't wait to watch it. And then that came out, and I was like, well, maybe I'll write that someday. That's a cool idea. Just a beleaguered sheriff of Nottingham. Just trying to deal with Robin Hood and stuff, and keep the prince happy that he's not really sure should be an authority and stuff. It'd be an interesting character study, of a guy who's just doing his job, and isn't sure what's right and what's wrong at that point and everything.
So, 2 days from now, this coming Tuesday, May 4th, Zora Neale Hurston, what's the title? Fights?
Rainbringer, Zora Neale Hurston against the Lovecraftian mythos. It comes out the same day that her first novel, Jonah's Gourdvine, came out in 1932, I think. So
that's providence. That's synchronicity. Great. Awesome. But, where would you prefer people buy it from? Your website or Amazon? Probably your website, right?
You can get direct autographed copies from me on my website, which is erdelac.wordpress.com. Yeah, you can email me there, and I'll sign it and send it to you for the same price you would get it without shipping on Amazon. So a little bit cheaper.
All right,
that's great.
And I don't know, any promotions or anything?
I
can we mark it down in used books or anything?
I lowered the price on Macabre Rider to 99 cents, the first one for Kindle and everything. If you guys are, if that's your jumping point in, it's cheap right now. So
I've got Macabre Rider.
Okay, great.
But our listeners,
I'm going to have it here in a minute.
Yeah, that's beautiful, beautiful cover.
Yeah, that's for Rainbringer. That's Jabari Weathers. Yeah, great artist. Did a lot of art for Magic the Gathering, actually.
And here is our final co-host. You came at just the right time, Regina. We were wrapping up with Mr. Erdelac here, talking about Zora Neale Hurston going up against Cthulhu's evil legions. Go ahead, Ed. Go ahead, Edward.
Oh, go ahead, me?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Regina. How you doing?
Hi, Edward. It's nice to meet you. I'm doing well. How are you?
Great.
I interrupted you, though, right?
Oh, me? I was actually done. That's why I was like, keep going. I was like, no, I'm good. Go ahead.
So, Macabre Rider is what, marked down to?
Oh, yeah. That's the first entry is 99 cents on Kindle. So, and I think on Kindle Unlimited, if you have Kindle Unlimited, I think it's free. So, that's your jumping in point. Go to it.
I just bought it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Rainbringer, 2 days from now. Mm-hmm. I can't wait to see what you've been working on all this time, because there was this huge gulf of silence after I read Monstrum Furor, and I hunted down all the others, which I haven't read yet, but I was like, man, when's he going to write something with that impact again? Because that one spoke to me in particular, But I'm looking forward to this. I'm excited.
He liked it so much, Ed, that he bought a copy for me to read.
I did.
That's awesome.
I did.
Yeah.
That's the highest compliment. Thank you.
I'm very enthusiastic about your work and about many others people's works in general. So yeah,
I appreciate that a lot, Jeremy. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, sir. Well, you're welcome back anytime to promote anything, or if you just want to chill with us. And if there's anything we can do, if I can do to help promote you, or just get any trolls off your back, I'll assist with that as best as I can.
Definitely. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the support, Jeremy. It was great fun. Yeah, thanks. If you want to talk about Rainbringer in the future after you read it, let me know. I'll come back anytime. Appreciate it.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, nice meeting you.
Yeah, thanks, Greg.
Thanks for
nice.
coming.
I would love to talk to Shadow again anytime. Yeah.
Regina, did you have a question before he goes?
You know what? No, I feel like I always come in at the end of the first interview and I just ask stupid, redundant questions that have already been asked. So yes, I also actually am about to purchase Merkaba Rider, so I'm very much looking forward to reading it. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm sorry I'm not able to come on earlier. I wish I could have talked to you more, but it was nice to.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Good luck with everything, and I'm sure you're going to do well with this. The reception wise. So.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for the well wishes too.
Thank you.
Great work. So, of course, if you want to hang around, you're welcome to.
I can honestly, if you don't. I mean, it feels kind of awkward, but I can hang around if you guys want.
It's totally up to you.
Feel free.
We do a format that's kind of loose, and we move from guest to guest sometimes. So if you want to hang around, that's totally fine, and it doesn't have to be awkward. Not at all.
Sure. What's up next? What do you got coming on?
Our buddy Neil Bimbo here, and
what up?
That is an alias or a pen name, pseudonym, but
I thought it was the bread guy
of
the bread bimbos.
Before we go any further, can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. I am not at home right now. I'm on the road. I'm actually on vacation. I don't know if you saw my Facebook post, but I forgot to pack my.
I'm so fucking jealous.
I forgot to pack my Meteor mic, so I'm actually using the built-in microphone on my laptop, and I'm like, gee, I hope this doesn't sound like shit.
Actually, sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm actually in your neck of the woods, Jeremy. I'm in Tennessee. I'm in
Where at?
Yeah, outside Pigeon Forge.
Wow.
I am in a cabin right now in the Appalachian Mountains. I am in the cabin from Apocalypse and Chill.
Did you talk to the timeshare? Did you talk to the timeshare people? Is that what happened?
I did not. I don't talk to timeshare people. It's actually really funny. When I wrote Apocalypse and Chill, I realized for like logistical reasons, I needed to put the main character in a 2-story cabin, like out in the middle of the woods, and I was like, no one's gonna buy this. Like, nobody's gonna believe that this guy like lives out in the middle of the fucking woods in like a 2-story log cabin. And I'm in a 2-story log cabin now, so that's kind of fun.
It sounds nice.
It does sound nice.
I wish I was in a 2-story log
cabin. I'm trying to stay off social media as much as possible for the next 6 days, but I am obviously here on Quiet Place to promote books and this wonderful week full of announcements that I've just been through. Unfortunately, one announcement did not make it to the week. The audiobook. The audiobook has not. I was really hoping it would be approved by ACX this week, but it has not. So Corruption Lord's audio will be coming out whenever the hell it gets approved. But I have 3 releases within a span of like 10 days, I want to say.
Wow. Is this all around May 4th?
Well, no, yeah, here's Chronomancer. Oh, you got the updated one too. I love it. We took there used to be an "and" in the center there, right above the lady's head.
Oh, yeah.
A friend of mine, whose opinion I trust more than my own, looked at it and was like, "Get rid of the and. Like, it looks like shit."
Yeah, I agree.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
So that comes. So Chronomancer, very excited about, comes out Tuesday, May 4th. I actually have, and I have 2 books out right now that came out this week. One on Amazon and one that is only on godless.com.
That's great. Very cool. Very
now,
exciting.
see, Edward EdwardGodless.com is a platform for people who have been, just run through the ringer by Amazon, who constantly have to filter their style through, homogenization of Amazon, and so some authors work better, with unlimited,
minimal restrictions.
Sure.
Anti-censorship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hell
And
yeah.
so Godless.com is a good resource for authors who want to, color outside the lines.
A lot of it's hardcore horror and
Yeah.
Yes.
I almost made my picture tonight the cover from the Godless book, but I thought it might get you in trouble. I actually could not post the cover on Facebook. Every time I posted it, it would immediately take it down, and I put the ad up and then added the cover to it later, and it then immediately took the page down. So that's fun.
That's so ridiculous.
It does not like if you look under recently released under books, it should be on there. They just do not like those bodacious tatas I'm using to promote the fertility idol and other stories. But I for those of you who don't know me, I'm No Bimbo. I'm a smut baron. I've been writing erotica for 8 years. Hi, I'm doing my stand-up at Alcoholics Anonymous. Hi, my name's No Bimbo. I've been writing smut for 8 years. And I've been writing full-length novels in the Harem genre for about a year now. So yeah, the book that I have out with Godless is a collection of stories, 7 stories, 6 of which have been either rejected by mainstream publishers or were taken down in purges. There was a big purge of erotica, I want to say around 2015, where certain aspects, particularly ones involving sort of dubious consent scenarios, Amazon changed their mind on a bunch of stuff and took them down. So I had a number of stories that got taken down. Some of them I rewrote to sort of fit the new regime, and some of them just sort of went into a desk drawer to be forgotten. And I've resurrected and rewritten a few of them in this story, in this short story collection, and it's also anchored with a brand new 20,000 word erotic horror novella called The Fertility Idol, which I can say more or less 100% surety is the most disgusting thing I've ever written.
This one is the aristocrats, right?
Congratulations.
I mean, it basically is.
Now, why is it the aristocrats thing became this staple of, comedy and I guess other avenues of performance art, where it's like you have to basically find every way you can to humiliate yourself in a short amount of time, is what I took away from it. And you can tell variations on it, but it's like to prove that you're willing to embarrass yourself for your art, I guess, right? Is that the goal?
I think it started as it's like a hardcore.
It's like a shock joke, right?
I believe that it started as a thing that you did, when your act was bombing or when people were being, hostile to you, and you would then sort of turn that back on the audience and just try to come up with the most disgusting fucking thing you can think of. There's my book if you want to click on it. It's right next to. I am so happy to be right next to Aussie Sickos, you guys. You have no idea how pleased I am to be up there next to Simon McCarty. I'm so happy to be.
Have you read it yet, Neil?
Aussie Sickos? No, I have not.
I'm gonna flex because I have.
Wait! I'm sorry. What happened,
Neil?
Aussie Sickos? No, I have not.
I'm gonna flex because I have.
Someone's echoing really badly.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. It Gracie opened a bunch of windows of the same video.
Oh.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Regina. You're going to flex.
Yeah, I have already had the pleasure of reading Aussie Sickos. It was one of 7 or 8 books I did get a chance to read this week. And it was fucking excellent. So I'm really excited. I'm stoked on it. Get pumped.
Simon doesn't love me as much as he loves you, I guess. I did get the uncensored Mother Maggot, though, from him ahead of time, and I've yet to write the review for that, but it was the most disgusting book I've ever read. previously, and now it's just as even more disgusting.
Yeah, it's just a little bit worse. It's like, why? How can the human brain envision these things?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I've read some fucked up shit recently, thanks to you people. If you want to click the boobs, that would bring my thing up so we can talk.
Come on, Jeremy.
Jeremy, scroll down.
Jeremy, roll back down.
Oh my God.
Jeremy,
you do this on
Jeremy, you're so bad at this.
Wait a minute. Why are there echoes again? What happened?
There's no echoes. We're just trying to get you. Yes,
there we
that
go.
one.
There we go. There's
There
me.
you go.
Yeah. Facebook hates that cover. They will not let me post anything with that cover in it.
Really?
Facebook hates boobs.
And that cover, I did that cover myself. I'm very proud of it. That's me, actually, on the cover.
Wow.
Oh, that's
gorgeous.
Hey, Jeremy, he's in Tennessee
You're
right
very
now.
fit.
But I'm aiming, I was aiming for 70s porn paperback, and I'd like to think I hit it.
So what's up with N Bimbo? What's up with that?
I went back and forth as to whether or not I was going to do this as Neil or whether I was going to come up with like a sort of like godless specific pen name. And then I decided not to, but I had already made the covers, so I'm fucking lazy, and I didn't redo it with the Neil. And you're the first person to point it out, and now I feel fucking awkward.
Well, I think it's fine. I just thought there would be is it because it's more horror than it is erotica, or
I don't know that it's really more horror than it is erotica, honestly. I mean, there's definitely some horror stuff in these stories, particularly in the fertility idol and I guess in like exposure therapy. That could also be considered a kind of a psychological horror story, but no, it's mostly just absolutely just smut with no moral or ethical
No
or
excuse at all.
value of any kind.
So is this different than? I mean, I'm not trying to make a joke, but is this different than what you normally put out?
Yes, because it's things that Amazon doesn't let me do.
Okay. So would your normal audience not really necessarily go for this particular collection?
I said this on Facebook. The people who are into me for like the Harem lit books, like Apocalypse and Chill and Corruption Lord, probably wouldn't be into this. The people who are like old school Neil heads who have like been reading my like smut on Amazon for years probably would be into this, because it is, most of it is that, but without sort of the things that I have to do to be, play nice with Amazon. Because most of my stories, as you can probably see from the fucking picture I went with, most of my stories involve hypnosis or mind control as some form of plot device. And when you get into that, like even in the best of times, you're sort of playing around with the idea of consent.
Right.
So you have to, I've done this before. I've written a thing about it that's been in a couple different places where I wrote like 2 scenarios involving bimbofication, and one is written in a very like they're essentially the same thing. They're both like a woman being bimbofied by like a remote control or something, but one is written very much like a non-consensual scenario, and the other one, the woman is thrilled at these changes that are happening within her, and sort of initiates the sexual experience. And I'm saying that although both of these are theoretically, if you want to be really pedantic about it, sort of dubious consent scenarios, if you write the second one instead of the first, Amazon won't like fuck your shit up. That's the technical term, actually. As someone who's had their shit fucked up multiple times from Amazon, that is the technical term.
Wow. That's amazing that they go that deep into it. I could see the covers, right? But they actually look at the actual plot elements and the scenarios and will censor it based on that.
I think with Amazon, it's more if someone complains.
Okay.
Because I have had people complain about specific serials that I've written before. I don't have any hate mail to read tonight, unfortunately. I'm not at home on my old computer, but
I could see definitely where somebody would buy a Neil Bimbo book and complain about it being dirty.
Look, you'd be surprised.
There's a lot of people who decide, a lot of people out there who decide they're going to be the fun police.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, really.
But yeah, Fertility Idol was written entirely for Patreon, and it was published in sort of segments. And I went through and sort of cleaned it up a bit, made it flow a little bit better, like an actual story instead of installments. And the other stories are all, like I said, they're either things that were just straight up Amazon got it and was like, no, this is blocked. Like After Class, which is one of the stories, and there was originally called The Alpha Professor. I knew I was playing with fire with that one just to begin with, and it was no like surprise to me when Amazon was like, no, we will not be publishing this story, Mr. Bimbo. Because that one involves some pretty gnarly stuff, some stuff that I think that story I was making fun a little bit of some of the mean things that have been said about me in the past by sort of feeding them back to the reader.
Yeah, I do that a lot.
Yes, you do. You do that a little bit in the book that I'm reading right now, in Familiarity.
Oh, really?
But we can talk about that later. This is my fucking segment.
Yeah, no, you talk about you, babe. You do you.
Absolutely. Sorry. I'm having a good vacation.
I can tell.
And let's see. The other book that I have that came out this week, I finally resolved my legal difficulties. You were talking about, this is really interesting, Ed, because you were talking about not having an idea for a book and then people immediately tell you, oh, that sounds exactly like this other book. I would warn you not to write that book because so I wrote a book called Mind Over Marker. I wrote it actually while I was having some difficulty with Amazon in January as a way of cheering myself up. And I published it. I put it up on a Thursday as a pre-order on a Tuesday. And I immediately began getting messages from people asking me if I was aware of this other book with an extremely similar premise by someone in my own genre who I won't name for obvious reasons, but has a lot more clout than I do. And for the record, I was completely unaware of this book's existence. But upon looking at the blurb, I did say, oh, yeah, no, that's sort of the same thing. And I sort of shrugged it off until Sunday, that Sunday when I woke up to people telling me that author was on social media calling me a plagiarist and a rip-off artist and basically threatening to sue me. So I ended up pulling the book, and it went through this whole twisted email thing that I won't go into for obvious reasons. But in the end, I ended up to sort of get it out the gate. I ended up making a few small changes to the book. It's now called A Brush with Greatness, and it's about a magic paintbrush whose paintings that are painted with it come to life. And so it's up on Amazon. It's doing okay. I think the controversy kind of hurt it. So I'm not really. Sucks. I mean, I'm not. It's okay. After everything that happened, there was no real chance of this becoming like a sequel series, of becoming like a series like Apocalypse and Chill, where I churn out a book for it every month or anything like that. So I'm just moving on to Chronomancer, which comes out on Tuesday, and which you had this whole like wonderfully researched set of reasons for releasing on Tuesday with the anniversary of Zora Neale Hurston's book that was published and these things. I just went with Tuesday because it's Star Wars Day. It's
May the 4th. Yeah, May the 4th be with you.
Yeah, you know, my audience is nerds, so you know, me
both
and Gideon,
of you are releasing something Tuesday.
We are. Mm-hmm. We are. Absolutely. There can be only one.
Who else is around here? Anybody else in this group?
Regina, you got something releasing on Tuesday?
She released something every day last week, so.
Yeah, no, I'm not releasing anything next week. I'm going to be working on other things next week.
You're the only person like more productive than me with like release schedules right now.
Oh man, I don't know about that. You're pretty freaking productive. I'm mostly just like I'm trying to shift focus to novels instead of constant short stories, and then just throwing a short story out every once in a while. So
I'm competing with George R.R. Martin in my release schedule.
Jeez.
yeah, I can tell.
What's the point if that's the case?
Jesus, did you see Pat Rothfuss is streaming now? He's like streaming himself speedrunning Minecraft. It's like, dude, why? Why? You'll do anything to avoid writing, won't you?
Yeah, isn't he like a host of some Netflix show about mythological creatures or something too?
It's some shit, man.
Yeah.
George R.R. Martin would rather talk about his little miniature castles than actually finish the epic saga that entranced the world and was a household name until that horrible series finale. Now everyone speaks about it as if it's winter, coming. They despair about it.
Hush tones,
Yeah.
That's probably why he's like, oh god, they fucked up the ending of the TV show. I've got my noose in the neck on the ending of the book now.
I'm sorry, but I'm not spoiling anything by saying who ended up on the Iron Throne, am I? I mean, you've had plenty of time to watch, right, everybody?
We all know.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, everybody
Bran,
knows.
I don't care.
Bran is not king material. I don't care how wise and sage-like he is by, like blending with tree roots or something that were hundreds of years old or whatever, or he can warg into animals, good for him. So could a bunch of wildlings, and they're not king material. I hope, and I imagine.
I would prefer to wildling as king, frankly.
I would too. But I imagine in my Neverland far away, that Mira Reed comes and assassinates Bran in his bed at night for all the insensitive, totally, selfish platitudes that he forced on her as she lost her brother and everyone else that she cared about on the journey. Mira Reed,
agree. It's time King Bran was canceled. I completely agree.
Yeah, Mira Reed should
long
do it
since
though,
past
because
time.
she lost her brother and Bran's like, I mean, literally. Not literally, but I mean, he didn't have emotions to supplement it. I mean,
I haven't read the books, but do you think the did Martin have anything to do with that last season or anything? Or
No. And that was the canary in the coal mine. That was the canary in the coal mine because up until season 4, Martin was both involved and wrote the script for one of the episodes each season.
Right.
The first sign that something was wrong was when Martin dropped off the writing staff completely.
Do you think he that any of those ideas were maybe guessed by the showrunners and he just saw that as like a dry run for ideas that he was actually working on, and then he had to throw them all out because they were crap or something? The backlash to him kind of just took all the wind out of his sails or something. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I kind of think that he just was no longer interested anymore after a certain point. He's not admitting it to himself or anybody else.
And that's the thing I hate about him, honestly. It's not even that he doesn't write books anymore. No, because look, Gillian Flynn is never going to write another book, like a full-length novel again. But when you ask her why in interviews, it's because she goes, Gone Girl made me enough money that I don't ever have to fucking write a book again. What are you talking about? If George Martin had that attitude, I wouldn't be half as pissed off with him as I am. But he's like, I am working on it. I work 6 hours a day at my DOS computer, and I definitely don't, go to the Raiders game every week. No, he is continuing with this fiction that he is working diligently on this book. And all of us know that it's crap.
My guess is by working, he means writing one sentence, deleting it, and then crying for the other 5 hours.
Yeah, that's pretty much my supposition.
What kind of fantasy do you like, Edward?
Me?
Yeah.
I like the old stuff, so I don't really read too much new fantasy and everything. That's why I said I'm not even up on George R. Martin or anything like that.
Wheel of Time? Like Jack Vance.
Jack Vance. Give me some recommendations and I'll check
Wheel
them
of
out.
Time.
Because I say that to try and pivot here because my book that comes out on Tuesday, The Chronomancer, is heavily inspired by Jack Vance.
Okay.
Back to the point that the
Where's
main
the book
character
cover?
Oh, yeah, pull up the book cover. The main character is named Vance, and there are about, I want to say, at least a half dozen references to different Jack Vance novels scattered throughout the text.
Pull up the book cover. Which one? The Fertility Idol?
Chronomancer. Hang on, I can
Pay
post
attention.
Let me send you. I'm gonna drop an Amazon link in the
There
private chat.
were boobs there. What do you want me to do?
I don't want you to get blocked though. You get blocked for everything. You get blocked for your music. Now they're going to tell you to remove the boobs, or they're going to take the stream down.
I got removed. I got it removed once because Bradley Sands felt I was invading his privacy.
Don't bring up his name. He might do it again.
Oh yeah, he was not to be named. Wait a minute. Frank's got something about George R. R. Martin here. Got wrapped up in marathon reading, which completely derails his writing schedule.
Stop projecting, Frank.
I don't want Edward to leave. I don't want Mr. Erdelac here to leave this conversation knowing what Hugh Cow is. Because,
I know, keep him pure.
Exactly.
It took me a long time to be okay with the fact that when people tell me that they enjoy my work, that there's obviously, sort of a prurient meaning behind that. But even I don't think I could take the idea of like George R. R. Martin checking out his Hugh Cow harem on his Kindle. I think that would pull me out of the writing game entirely.
So that's what his writing schedule consists of. It's him writing Game of Thrones fan fiction of himself having sex with all the characters.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, Neil, what would you do if suddenly, like, one day, like, George R. R. Martin sent you an email and was like, Neil, I have to tell you, I'm your #1 fan. I've been reading your fiction since day one, and I think you're just like the greatest living author. Like,
get as much money out of him as I possibly can.
It's like, can you get me on HBO?
Yeah, can I make a Hugh Cow series with you, sir?
a song of milk and something or other.
Milk and honey.
A song of milk and cream.
Milk and honey. I love it.
What's going on with the Chronomancer? What's that all about?
Okay, sorry, my apologies. Chronomancer. I am so fucking excited for this book, y'all. I co-wrote this book with my frequent writing sprint partner, Gideon Hayes. Gideon, very good friend of mine. They do not typically write in the harem lit genre. They are more of a romance person, but we write books in the same Discord server a lot. And this is an idea that I've been kicking back and forth with them for a long time. The Chronomancer is a fantasy harem lit book that is about revenge. Revenge and time powers. It is heavily inspired by one of my favorite pulp fantasy series of all time. I think I've talked about this before, Jack Vance's The Demon Princes. It is about a young man named Vance who, when he is a child, his parents are murdered by this gang of extremely powerful women called the Fallen Angels, and they sort of fit the party roles of like a Dungeons and Dragons party. There is like a mage, there is a barbarian, etc. I won't get into all of them because it's kind of spoilery, but they killed his parents to get this gem, which his father removed from the mine, and it turned out to be on his person. And 10 years later, he is working his way up the criminal organization to assassinate the one fallen angel whose identity he knows as part of his sort of revenge plot. And a job sort of goes bad, and this extremely attractive spirit pulls him into the gem, which and gives him the power to sort of, in a limited fashion, manipulate time. And he sort of has the ability to go back a limited number of times and fix mistakes that he's made. And he also has the ability to sort of slow down time to the point that it only moves when he moves. And sort of in the same manner that Jack Vance's The Demon Princes, which is sort of James Bond in space. Each book, he goes to a planet, he tracks down the member of the Demon Princes, and he assassinates them. Each one of these books is going to be Vance tracking down, identifying, and assassinating one of these fallen angels, along with his sort of growing harem of sexy fantasy babes. It's a lot of fun. I am absolutely in awe of Gideon Hayes's writing skills. They did this incredible heist chapter, which it takes place in like 2 timelines at once. It's fantastic. I'm not allowed to play favorites legally, but I think this maybe it's up there in terms of my favorite book that I've ever written. And it comes out Tuesday.
Fantastic.
That's really exciting. And
Congratulations.
I read it, and it is excellent. Really
Right, and
fun.
Regina has read it. I gave Regina a copy.
Oh,
Yes.
very nice. And you
I also
were
gave
saying
Simon
you enjoyed
McCarthy.
it, Regina?
Yeah, I enjoyed it, and it's really interesting because it's like, for me, I think the hallmark of a successful collaboration is I read the book and I can't tell who's writing what chapter or scene. It's like seamless, and I felt like Chronomancer was really seamless, and the voices of the 2 authors really melded well, and there's a lot of really good action scenes and a lot of good action scenes. Wink. And I just thought it was great. I thought it was had a very creepy creature, and very excellent, really good villain. It was great. It was so fun.
So do you collaborate often, Neil?
No, this is the first collaborative book that I've written.
Now, honestly, would you do it again?
Hopefully I will. Hopefully this book takes off well enough that Gideon and I will start writing the sequel real soon.
So
I absolutely would.
So did it take you as long as it would do by yourself, or did it speed it up, or did it slow it down the whole process?
That's a good question. So I want to say that it takes about as much time. I want to say
that's what I
it was
hear
a lot
generally.
more backloaded than front loaded this time around. Normally, you have this sort of burst. It was interesting. Normally, you have this sort of, all of us know, the sort of ebbs and flows of writing a novel. You have this sort of difficulty getting the very beginning started, and then there's this sort of initial burst of energy, and then you sort of flag in the middle, and then if you're like me, you flag your way through the middle third of it, and then you end up writing the ending in one like gigantic sort of amphetamine burst,
right?
Where you're just riding high on like the pure climax of the story.
Right.
That didn't really happen with this book. If anything, honestly, there are 2 chapters in the middle of the book that were the last 2 chapters that I wrote, or that were written for the book. So it wasn't written in front to back order as normal.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of parts that we each sort of worked on separately and then handed to each other to do like an editing pass on to, as Regina said, to try and make the writing as seamless as possible between our 2 styles. Certain parts
appropriate for a book called Chronomancer.
Yes, exactly. Certain parts were more Gideon than me. We each sort of played to our strength. The heist sequence was, other than a few touch-ups on my part, almost completely Gideon's baby. Most of the fight scenes were also Gideon's, whereas for the, as Regina said, the sort of quote-unquote action scenes, Gideon pretty much just wrote in brackets, like, have them fuck, and I would write the scene. They were not interested, Gideon was not interested in touching those scenes for no other reason. I mean, and in as much as I have a brand in the harem lit genre, it's for being someone who has more of those type of scenes and in greater depth than most harem lit writers. So
what kind of genre does Gideon Hayes write in typically?
Gideon,
Monster Girl.
As Gideon, Gideon does write a little bit of harem lit. They've written one harem lit series called Wayfinder that is very good. But Gideon typically, in their other pen name, and I'm being careful here, I'm not sure what they would want me to reveal, typically does write in romance, and is a pretty fucking successful romance writer. Honestly, I'm not sure why they're slumming it with me, to be honest.
So so Gideon Hayes doesn't write sex scenes, or this person does?
Gideon's, man, I wasn't expecting this question. Gideon's how do I answer this? I sort of have Gideon and I have different perspectives with regard to that aspect of writing. I'll put it that way. Gideon is not entirely comfortable with the sort of the male focused sort of types of scenes of these harem lit books. Like I said, they're more of a romance background person, and they are good at that. But that's sort of my hallmark of the sort of the bimbo brand. So they were, very much like I'm not going to touch this. I will put in brackets when sexy times happen, and I will trust to you to add it in where it's necessary. For example, only Regina will get this because she's the only one who's read it yet, but hopefully you all will after Tuesday. For example, in the first chapter of the book, there is a scene involving not to be too spoilery, but it's chapter 1. There's a scene involving a dancing girl who is part of this sort of fertility cult who ends up sort of throwing herself at the hero and has to be rebuffed for plot reasons. But that was not in the original draft. That was something that I added to chapter 1 after the fact, because I realized that we had no heat in the book, like in a sexual way, up until like almost a third of the way through the book. And that is really a killer with regards to the harem lit genre. You want to have something, even if you don't have actual sex, you want to have either flirting, you want to have something that promises the reader right up front that they know what kind of book this is going to be. So that was a sequence that once I got the sort of the quote unquote finished chapter 1 back from Gideon, I was like, this needs something, and I threw that in there, and hopefully it was good.
Ed, do you have any idea what a harem lit book is?
I think I've seen some of Neil's Facebook posts. So like I think I have an inkling, but no, why don't you explain it?
I thought there was actually like
don't.
harems involved. Like there was actually like, a literal harem going on, but it's not the case.
I assume
it
it's a bunch of
is.
It's like a lot of different partners, right? Or something, females, or I don't know. That's my guess.
Like the hero goes through his adventures and collects females that are loyal to him, and they
polyamory. Yeah.
And I said, no, not polyamory, because it's specifically one man with multiple female partners. The women
polygamy.
fool around with other men. They can fool around with each other, but they can't fool around with other men. And I'm sorry, I'm aware that's sexist. I'm aware that's misogynistic. That's how the genre is.
It's so boring to me.
I swear to God, Jeremy, if you read that fucking Logan Jacobs quote again.
Yeah, I was going to say. Come on.
Yes, please read this in front of it.
I will leave the podcast.
Don't
you read it.
I can't do it again.
Okay, read that again.
Please read it in front of it.
You have read this like 4 fucking times.
I got
been
enough trouble for making fun of this like the first time I was on the podcast.
No, wait a minute.
I don't need.
Wait, but I'm not laughing at Logan Jacobs. I'm laughing with him very much.
No, you're not. You're laughing at him.
I swear I am. No,
I think Logan Jacobs would disagree with you, Fred. I think Logan Jacobs would disagree with you.
Logan,
if you can't laugh at your own fetishes, or what can you laugh at?
I do laugh at my own fetishes. Logan, I swear I'm laughing with you.
Inside of my arm.
Logan, I'm laughing with you. I swear, dude.
What do you mean? How do you know if he thinks this is a joke? Really?
I swear I'm laughing with him.
Okay, it doesn't make any sense.
The dialogue, the way the dialogue reads, it is funny, but
it's free publicity. Quit whining.
I laughed at my female warden, carrying the guy, dragging the guy by the shackle chain. I read that while laughing on here once, so I can laugh at my own stuff. Surely he could laugh at his.
Okay, but you have read this passage like 5 times on this program, so
I know, but it gets better every time.
It is a good passage. I'm not gonna lie.
I wasn't really gonna read it, but I swear I'm laughing with Logan. I'm sorry if I put you in a bad spot, Neil.
You're fine.
Do they really take it that seriously? They don't take it that seriously.
I'm a fucking lightning rod for this shit in 2021, man. 2021 has been one hell of a year so far.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you had that thing with the one artist, and I'm sure that I don't know. Was that you or was that Regina that had that big blow up in a harem fiction Facebook group?
Oh,
I
that
think
was me.
we both have at various points, but I think the
Yeah.
one you're thinking about is Regina's.
Yeah, you're thinking about the time when I had they started to trash the book instantly when it wasn't even out there because I think they just saw that a woman was writing it and they were like, is she gonna write a real harem? Is it gonna have cucking in it?
Talking about Blumendark, right?
Yeah, this is Blumendark. And
I
they're
got in
like,
trouble. Oh, so go ahead.
club.
Sorry.
No, it was just like the longest thread. But anyway, I came in like 6 posts into it because I suddenly saw that the pre-orders were like just skyrocketing. Like I before I went in the shower, it was like at 28, and I got out of the shower and it was like 36, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I just happened to then see that a Harem Lit group I had recently joined on Facebook had this post that was just blowing up. And it was ridiculous. It's like 111, reviews on Facebook now, and book 2 is 20 reviews on or 111 reviews on Amazon, and it's like 20 reviews on Amazon for book 2, and it's just doing it really well for what I've published in the past. So it's been really exciting, and it goes to show you that there's no such thing as bad publicity. I went into the thread and I controlled the situation, and people settled down once I started to answer their questions a little bit, and they gave the book a fair chance, and that's all I can really ask. It was great experience.
So, Ed, has your opinion of us changed in the last 15
No. Degenerates.
Okay.
No,
sorry.
no.
Yeah.
No.
How do you feel about erotica?
I don't blame anybody for whatever they want to read. I mean, it's cool. It's cool, man.
Yeah.
So
that's all I ask at the end of the day.
So if you enjoy it, that's fine. If you enjoy it, it's great.
Yeah.
So you're wrapping up here soon? Or?
I do. I have to. This is going to sound all like lame, but I got to go make dinner for my kids after all.
That's
this.
great.
Nice.
Thank you so much for giving us your time.
Yeah, thanks for sticking around.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thanks a lot for coming. Go make dinner for your kids while we sit here and discuss degenerate erotica.
Be wholesome.
I purchased one of your books, and I'm looking forward to reading it.
I appreciate it. Congratulations on your new releases too, Neil
really,
and Regina. Did you really write a book for every day release something every day last week? Or?
Oh yeah, it was just I had
That's
some stuff
cool.
in the backlog, and so I just did kind of a fun event. And then I've had a book that I've been hyping up for a while, Familiarity, which came out on Friday, so it kind of all fit together to build up to that.
That's really cool. That's a cool achievement.
Yeah, thank you. It was really fun.
Edward, it meant a great deal to me, especially because I'm familiar with your work. And Monstrum Fuhrer, like I said, was on my top 10 list like 2 years ago. And hey, laugh at it if you want to, but not just any books end up on my top 10. I take the top 10 like deathly serious every year.
I appreciate that, Jeremy. Thank you very much.
and you made it.
Yeah, I don't get on many top 10, so I appreciate it when I get one, honestly. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, have a great evening.
Yeah,
have a great one.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
And this has been great.
I got in trouble in the. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What'd you get in trouble for?
I got in trouble in the we were talking about Harem Lit dust ups. I got in trouble in the Harem Lit Facebook group.